Descent of the Demon God. By Hanjo Wiolia. Chapter 231. The 3 Days of Disappearance. The base was a mess as there were many broken devices scattered around. Crackle. The lights flickered as if the power could go out at any moment. The base was filled with countless dead bodies and reeked with the smell of blood. Nothing alive remained. Step, step. Chun Yo-won, who had gone inside the base for a while, placed his palm against the blocking wall. The wall crumbled like powder, revealing a hidden space. Then, it showed a small space inside. Shoo! Upon entering there, the space on the floor descended like an elevator. He went down for a while and stopped after reaching 50 meters downwards. Power is turned on. The power turned on as Chun Yo-won stepped inside, and a brightened voice came out from the speaker. Ha! Chun Yo-won sighed. In the middle of the circular space was a small glass tube. It held something brownish and wrinkled. It was the brain. Tack. Touching the glass, he mumbled, Chun Musong. The brain of his descendant. Due to the passage of time, the brain was unsuccessfully preserved. Since all of his brain cells were damaged, it was clear that nothing could be saved. But it wasn't thrown away. The brain would be useless, but the AI didn't throw it away. It was left unattended in this place, with the intent to be stored permanently. Chun Yo-won looked around. There were some old clothes he saw hanging on the wall. They were the clothes his descendant wore when they met each other. Not only that, his belongings, goggles, belt pockets, everything was there. It was displayed as if honoring him. Was he remembered constantly? By the subject who betrayed him? When he read the memories of the AI, Chun Yo-won felt a strange feeling. AI didn't have emotions, but this one considered its creator as a parent. This one AI betrayed its parent for freedom and kept that thought till the end. Funny one. Chun Yo-won shook his head. Just as it was difficult for an AI to understand a human, it was difficult for him to understand the AI. Next to where the belongings were, was a storage table covered with glass. The piece of glass was placed on a red carpet. He tried to consider it a TVM just in case it held some information, but Nano said no to it. Chun Yo-won couldn't hide his regret at it. However, there was a scratch on the middle of the glass, which was just a quarter the size of a human palm. Nano, try magnifying it. I understand. Chun Yo-won's eyes shook, and his field of vision expanded like a camera. When he zoomed onto it, it wasn't a scratch. It was none other than writing. The text was a TQC cipher, combined with shapes. Can you interpret it, Nano? It is possible. Since there weren't many combinations, it was possible to do it right away. The place where our relationship began. Where did the relationship begin? Contrary to the wish, hoping there would be coordinates on it, there were words. It was a message. Chun Yo-won frowned at the words as if they meant to share a memory. What is this? While thinking about it, something popped into his mind. No way. To check it, Chun Yo-won moved through space. He was now someone who tapped into a willful master level 1, so he had no restrictions on movement. Wong. Suddenly, the surroundings changed to a hillside with thick bushes and lush trees. Chun Yo-won, who saw it, suddenly felt emotional. 10,000 mountains, where his cult had to be, remained the same, despite the trees around. And when he saw it, he thought of the Sky Demon Order spread around. It has to be from that idiot. This was where we first met. He was at the place where he met Chun Musong, who came from the future and injected Nano into Chun Yo-won. Even if he interpreted the code, it could give the same location. Chun Yo-won closed his eyes to focus and moved slowly to somewhere. Step, step. And then his footsteps stopped. Chen Yuan reached out to one point and pulled something which made the ground under his feet shake. Cuckoo! Suddenly, something jumped out of the violent shaking ground, a box sealed with a solid rectangular alloy. Chuck! When he used the sword, the alloy cracked, revealing what was inside, the round device with glass finishing outside to prevent it from corrosion. Time pack. Ha! Chen Yuan, who held it in his hand, exhaled. The only way to return to the past he had been looking for was now in his hands. However, the joy lasted only for a moment. Him obtaining this meant eternal separation from this time. Jinan City. On the roof of Yongchen Group, which was now the central place of the Sky Demon Order, all the executives were gathered along with Chen Wujin, Chen Yujiang, and the minor leaders. Their eyes were red. Chen Wujin bowed down, and slowly the others followed. We are eternally touched by the grace of our ancestors. To be surrounded by the Chen Ma. When those words were finished, thousands of the cult members in the traditional clothes of the Sky Demon Order with the word demon printed on it shouted from below. Long live the demon god! Cries of thousands of people resounded through. There was sadness around. Everyone on the roof was already in tears. It was the longing and sorrow for the Sky Demon Order that they could have never revived. Sigh. Chen Yuan, who was looking at them, sighed. He, too, couldn't help but feel a bit touched. He took a clear look at each one of them and said, Chen Yujiang. Yes, ancestor. You still have shortcomings. Learn to clear them. Yes. I will keep that in mind. Chen Yujiang bowed his head to the floor as his tears dripped down. Chen Wujin. Yes. Chen Wujin looked up at Chen Yuan. The kind heart his ancestor had towards them couldn't be repaid. Never again do anything which will lead to the downfall of the name of the great Sky Demon Order. Do you understand? Never. I will make sure to never harm it. I look forward to that. With that, Chen Yuan placed his hand on his head. A shimmering black haze came up and eventually entered the mind of Chen Wujin. Startled, Chen Wujin asked, this? I give you some of the power of the Demon King. If you have this, the demons remaining on Earth will not run wild. Ah. Ancestor. This isn't something I gave to make you happy. It is me telling you to lead them and restore the core of remaining gates. The 3 star gates in the current China were restored, and because of that, amazing things happened. All the gates that were opened indiscriminately were now closed. However, some gates were still open in Europe and South Africa. I will carry out your command. Chen Wujin vowed to do it. Then Chen Yuan asked one more thing. When Stargate is done, help rebuild India. Chen Yuan already dealt with the hazardous entity of the TRA-class gate, which made India a mess. However, that led to the people of India being scattered around the world, and the nation wasn't properly reconstructed. As long as they were members of the Sky Demon Order, Chen Yuan wanted to take care of them till the end. Step. The following people Chen Yuan faced were those who constantly followed him. He patted the head of Bai Makian. It must have been hard to assist me. What are you saying? It was the greatest honor in my life to assist the legendary Chen Ma. Thud. Bai Makian bowed to the floor and banged his head. Chen Yuan smiled and turned to his 3 secretaries. Yu Sowa, Im Sohai, and Shakina. Vice Chairman. Yu Sowa felt complicated feelings rise inside her. She hated Chen Yuan, but she felt like she would miss his presence. Shoo. Chen Yuan raised his hand and shook it. Both Yu Sowa and Im Sohai began to laugh as if something was tickling them. It felt like ants were crawling on their bodies, and little dust-like things came out of the nose and ears. Ah! Both exclaimed at it. They were the nanobombs planted inside them. It was to release the nanobomb which was inside them. Chen Yuan spoke to them. Now you are free. You may go back to wherever you want. Yu Sohua hesitated at it, but Sohai spoke. What? We are unemployed because the gates have been removed. What do you mean go to wherever we want? Ah. At those words, Yu Sohua realized something. If the gates were closed, then gatekeepers weren't needed. Of course, such talented people couldn't just die of starvation because of unemployment. Sohai mumbled. Why you have to take responsibility as an employer till the end? At that, Chen Yuan smiled and spoke to Chen Yuzhang. Maybe use these children as secretaries? Yes. Chen Yuzhang was bewildered at the sudden request, but couldn't hide his satisfaction. Who would say no to having two SS-class keepers as secretaries? Is that okay now? Thank you. When a high salary was guaranteed, she smiled. Yu Sohua hesitated at first, but then bowed her head to thank him. Thank you. And I will miss you. She hesitated to say those words, making her blush and hide behind Sohai. Then Chen Yuan turned to Shekinah. What will you do? Master. I will. If you have nothing to do, stay here with them. That is it. Chen Yuan ended it cleanly and turned, and Shekinah was flustered by it. What is this? How can this be ended so simply? She didn't even have a choice to decide. Leaving her behind, Chen Yuan headed to the others. And his steps turned heavier as he moved. Hu Bong, Becky, Mun Ranyang were waiting for him along with the golden gumiho. Unlike usual, she was now in the appearance of a beautiful blonde woman in modest attire. Chen Ma, even if you tell me not to, I will come along. Yes. You are so like him. Tears welled up in her eyes. She was sad that she couldn't hold on to him, the haven she found after so long. It was painful to see that disappear again. To her, Chen Yuan said. Even if it is not me, you will find shelter again. It has no meaning without you. Didn't you feel the same after Ancestor? Ugh. Same blood. She smiled brightly and went close to Chen Yuan. While pretending to hug him, she went for his lips. Chen Yuan frowned. He could have avoided it, but he didn't. Then the yokai energy flowed through their mouths. Ha! And she opened her lips with a smile. Think of that as me. She was smiling, but her tears didn't stop flowing. Chen Yuan, who looked at her, smiled. You. The golden gumiho's eyes widened as she saw him smile for the first time at her. It was the face she wanted to see, so her tears flowed more. Why is he showing me that, now? It made her feel frustrated. Chen Yuan moved forward. Lord. Hu Bong had tearful eyes, and had a runny nose too. His usual fun appearance was gone, and he looked so sad. Mun Ranyang opened her mouth with a red face. I am seeing this after a long time. As expected, our time's clothes looked the best on Chen Ma. Chen Yuan was wearing a red vest with long black sleeves and a dragon pattern. These were the clothes he had when he fell here. Fortunately, he kept them safe. Stop crying. I need to say my goodbye to Lord. Becky, who was next to Hu Bong, said it, which only made Hu Bong say, Jerk. Ack. Don't you have feelings? Are you that robot or something? I cannot see my lord forever, and what is with that expression? Hu Bong just came to learn the word robot. At that, Becky bit his lip. He didn't show it, but his eyes were already red. Stop. His voice was already trembling. He had no reason not to be sad. He pretended to be calm so Chen Yuan wouldn't feel too bad when leaving here. Chen Yuan, who looked at them too, had tears in his eyes. They were the people who gave up their lives and their time and went to sleep for his sake. Chen Yuan spoke with a heavy voice. If only you were all. Lord. Mun Arayang shook her head, cutting his words, and said, "We heard from Song Muchun. Our Lord was forced to fall here, but we are people who are of this era, even if that means that we came here through hibernation." Ha! Chen Yuan sighed at it. Mun Ranyang was right. Unlike Chen Yuan, who ended up deviating from causation, they merely endured the long pass of time. If we go back, won't there be two of us? That. Chen Yuan couldn't speak. If they went back with him, there would be two of them. If they head back to the time when they all fell into hibernation, it might work, but then Chen Yuan wouldn't exist there. Quack. No, two sounds best too. Puck. Ack. Becky said as he punched Hu Bong on the head, "This brat is so emotionally moved." Even if he was speaking like that, Becky, too, was crying. It was sorrow for the sake of his lord, whom they would never meet again. Don't worry too much. I have work to do here. He had to reconstruct his Pure Kick clan here. And those two will rely on each other and get through it. They're a married couple who slept simultaneously to be into this era. Besides, the two had no children back home. Chen Yuan held the sadness, grabbed Hu Bong by the shoulders, and said, "Hu Bong, now find your happiness. For my whole life, you will be the only." He tried to speak calmly, but Chen Yuan couldn't do it. A single tear fell. Hu Bong was his first subordinate. The thought of leaving behind those who sacrificed themselves for him made him cry. Hu Bong was in tears, but he smiled with a bright face, despite the runny nose, and said, "Only one with the Lord. Because that is how it always will be. I will always take care of my Lord, in the past too. Don't be so sad. Aren't you the demon god? That tear is more than enough for me." With that, Hu Bong bowed his head, and so did Becky and Mun Ranyang, and the three of them shouted, "Lord, please live a long life." "Thank you." Chen Yuan expressed his gratitude with red eyes, and pressed the button on the time pack. If he hesitated more, he would never be able to leave him. Wuong. Intense energy rose from the time pact that enveloped his body instantly. Shoo. On where Chen Yuan stood, only white particles scattered, telling he had left. Chen Yuan opened his eyes. It felt like a dream. The familiar energy from nature surrounding him was so abundant. It felt like there was tremendous energy once again. Am I really back? Even though the energy around him gave him the answer, it was hard to believe. And then came the sound of something moving in the bushes behind. Fat. Then, a person jumped at him from there. The moment Chen Yuan saw the person, his eyes trembled. Lord. The first voice he heard called him. Chen Yuan's eyes reddened as he heard the voice he desperately wanted to hear. Ku. The person was his lover, Mun Ku. Lord. Ha. Hu Bong with red hair and a hood over the head, Becky with the blunt face, Ko Wonger with his muscles, Ho Sanghua with her weapon, Sama Chuk, and Cha Taekyung were sighing. Across them, Mun Ku came ahead of him and hit him on the chest as she softly cried. Hook. I was so surprised that you suddenly disappeared. Where have you been for 3 days? 3 days? It was time when Chen Yuan disappeared. A few months were just 3 days here. Hu Bong spoke with a smile. Hi hey. I told you not to worry. Don't act so cheeky. Becky, with his blunt face, looked at Hu Bong as if he was pathetic. Their faces intersect with the ones of the future ones. Drop. Mun Ku was shocked. Lord? Are you crying because of something I said? She looked at Chen Yuan's widened eyes. Chen Yuan looked down at her with wet eyes and hugged her tighter. And thanks to that, Mun Ku's face was red. Lord, they are all here. Mun Ku whispered, feeling a bit embarrassed, to which Chen Yuan said with a smile. Wait, just another minute like this. Although he said that, Chen Yuan wanted to say something more to her. I really wanted to see you. The 3 days he disappeared. It was a story not recorded in the history of the 24th Lord of the Sky Demon Order, who unified the Murim lands for the first time. In a wet cave in darkness, a man with bright red eyes sharpened his sword. With a bandage on the chest, he mumbled the same thing repeatedly. I need to kill. I need to kill them all. Anyone could understand the intent. It was hatred, resentment, and murder. Then someone spoke. I see you are here. The red-eyed man turned his head in surprise. Although injured, he wasn't the careless kind, but he couldn't feel this man till now. Shoo! He raised the sword, which he was sharpening. And the man who came into the cave, whose face couldn't be seen, said, I have no resentment towards you right now, but I am not the kind to leave gaps just because of that. What are you talking about? Fat. The red-eyed man brought a red hue onto the sword and went for the man blocking the cave entrance, but his sword stopped mid-air. How can this be? No matter how much internal energy he used, he couldn't move the weapon. The red-eyed man shouted in surprise. You! Who are you? At that question, the face of the man was seen. He has fair skin and is tall. The man drew the sword towards the red-eyed man and said, Slash! Demon God.